Welcome to another deep dive, everybody. Today we'll be looking at the world of ancient art.
Ancient art, fascinating stuff.
Yeah, and we're actually going to be drawing from an episode of the Art on Trial podcast.
Oh yeah, I know that one. Mike and Jack are great.
Yeah, they are. And they had a really interesting discussion about ancient art that I thought would be perfect for us to take a closer look at.
Some good.
So, our mission today, if you choose to accept it, is to figure out what ancient art can tell us about the societies that created it.
Right, because it's more than just pretty pictures. Right.
Exactly. It's like a window into their world, their beliefs, their values, all that good stuff.
Mm.
And we're also going to tackle how we value ancient art today and why even something as simple as a stick figure can still have artistic merit.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've always wondered about that. Like, how do we decide what's good art from thousands of years ago?
Well, let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. A lot of people think of ancient art and they just picture like cave paintings and maybe some Egyptian statues.
Right, and they might think, oh, that's primitive or it's not very sophisticated.
Exactly. But one of the big takeaways from Art on Trial was that we often miss the point when we judge ancient art solely on its aesthetic appeal.
We do. We impose our modern sensibilities on something that was created in a completely different context.
Yeah, and so what Mike and Jack were saying is that we need to understand that ancient art wasn't just about decoration. It had a much deeper purpose. It was woven into the very fabric of their daily lives.
Mm.
Like it was a form of communication, storytelling, ritualistic practice, and even a display of power and social hierarchy.
Yeah, it's like, imagine if our only record of today's society was Instagram.
Whoa.
Future civilizations would be digging up our selfies and trying to figure out what it all meant.
That's a scary thought, but I get your point. Ancient art is essentially their Instagram feed. It's how they documented their lives and their beliefs.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get specific. What's a good example of this?
Well, the classic example is the Egyptian pyramids and hieroglyphs.
Ah, the pyramids. Always a crowd pleaser.
But seriously, those pyramids weren't just elaborate tombs. They were colossal statements of power.
Yeah, you don't build something that massive just for kicks,
Right.
right?
It was all about projecting an image of power and immortality. And then you have the hieroglyphs, which were way more than just pretty pictures.
I'll admit, I used to think they were just like some ancient doodles.
Oh, I know, right? But they were actually a sophisticated writing system that documented their history, their beliefs, their everyday lives.
It's like a visual diary etched in stone.
Exactly.
So essentially, they were Instagramming their entire civilization for future generations to see.
Pretty much. And it's incredible how much information we can glean from those posts, so to speak.
It really makes you appreciate the power of art to transcend time and connect us to the past.
Doesn't it? And speaking of connecting to the past, let's move on to those cave paintings.
Oh yeah, the ones that Mike and Jack were initially a little skeptical about.
Yeah, I remember they were like, really? Stick figures.
Well, I have to admit, I kind of thought the same thing at first. Like, okay, cool, some ancient doodles. But I'm sensing there's more to it than meets the eye.
Oh, there definitely is.
Yep.
Those cave paintings might appear simplistic, but they were created with pigments derived from natural materials, ground down and mixed, and then applied with rudimentary tools.
Wow, so we're talking serious dedication and resourcefulness here.
Absolutely. And many scholars believe those paintings played a vital role in ancient rituals, potentially linked to shamanism and ensuring success in hunts.
So like prehistoric good luck charms.
Exactly. Imagine them chanting and painting by firelight, trying to manifest a successful hunt.
I can almost see it.
And what's amazing is that these paintings also provide us with invaluable insights into extinct animals, ancient tools, and even social structures.
It's like flipping through a visual diary spanning millennia. And now I'm curious about the value part of this whole thing. How do we put a price tag on ancient art?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, because on the one hand, you have the age and rarity of these objects, like they've survived for thousands of years. That's incredible.
It really is. Just imagine holding a piece of pottery that someone crafted thousands of years ago.
Yeah, it'd be mind-blowing. But then you also have to consider the skill and ingenuity involved in creating these pieces.
Absolutely. These artists were working with limited resources, and yet they were able to create these intricate and expressive works of art.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that they were pushing the boundaries of what was possible with what they had at the time. And then, of course, you have the modern market for ancient art, which is a whole other beast.
Yeah, museums are the primary collectors, but private collectors also drive demand, and prices can range from thousands to millions of dollars.
Millions, wow. Okay, so there's got to be a story there. Give me an example.
Okay, so remember the Ginal Linus?
That Mesopotamian statue?
Yeah, that one is sold for over $57 million.
57 million. For a statue that's probably smaller than my dog?
It is small, yeah, but it highlights the extraordinary monetary value placed on these objects today.
So is it purely aesthetics that drives that demand? Or is it more about historical significance or maybe even an investment opportunity?
It's probably a combination of all those factors,
Mm.
but for me, the real value lies in what ancient art reveals about us, about our shared human history.
So it's not just about the object itself, but about the story it tells and the connection it creates.
Exactly. These ancient artists weren't just skilled craftspeople. They were storytellers, innovators, and spiritual beings expressing themselves through their art. And by studying their art, we gain a deeper understanding of their beliefs, their values, their fears, the very essence of their humanity.
It's like seeing ourselves reflected in their creative expressions, bridging the gap between past and present.
It is, and it reminds us that we're all part of this long line of humans who have sought to understand and interpret the world around them through art.
It really is mind-blowing to think about the connections that art can create across time and cultures. But before we get too philosophical, I'm curious to hear more about this Grenell lioness. What makes it so special, and why did it fetch such an astronomical price?
Well, for starters, it's incredibly rare and incredibly old. It dates back to around 3000 BC and is considered one of the finest examples of Mesopotamian art.
3000 BC. Wow. Okay, so it's old, it's rare, but what else? What does it look like?
Well, the lioness is depicted in a powerful, almost regal stance with intricate carvings that highlight the artist's exceptional skill.
It sounds breathtaking, but beyond its rarity and craftsmanship, is there a deeper meaning behind the depiction of the lioness?
Absolutely. In ancient Mesopotamia, the lioness was a potent symbol of power, fertility, and protection. It was often associated with Ishtar, the goddess of love and war.
Ishtar, the goddess of love and war. That's
Yeah.
fascinating. So this little statue isn't just a pretty face, it's packed with symbolic meaning.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so fascinating. It's a tangible link to a civilization that thrived thousands of years ago, offering us a glimpse into their worldview and artistic sensibilities.
And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What will our art say about us thousands of years from now? What will future generations make of our digital footprints, our memes, and our obsession with selfies?
Huh, you're right. It's a thought-provoking question. Perhaps they'll decipher the meaning behind our viral trends, or marvel at the artistry of our digital creations, or maybe they'll be left scratching their heads wondering what it all meant.
It's like we're leaving behind a digital cave painting of our time, waiting to be interpreted by future archaeologists of the internet.
Indeed. The beauty of art, both ancient and modern, is that it's open to interpretation, constantly evolving and always sparking new conversations.
So what you're saying is even our seemingly mundane digital artifacts could hold artistic and cultural significance in the future.
Absolutely. It all depends on how future generations choose to interpret and contextualize them. Who knows, maybe our memes will be considered the hieroglyphs of the 21st century.
Okay, that's both hilarious and a little bit scary. I think we need to take a break here and let our listeners ponder that thought. Welcome back, everybody. We've been talking about ancient art, and I gotta say, I'm already feeling a little more enlightened.
Me too. It's amazing how much we can learn from these ancient creations.
It really is. And before we move on, I want to hear more about this Gwenol lioness. What makes it so special that someone would pay $57 million for it?
Well, it's incredibly old. We're talking around 3000 BC, and is considered one of the finest examples of Mesopotamian art from that era.
3000 BC, that's like older than the pyramids, right?
Yeah, it's definitely up there. And get this, it's only about 8 centimeters tall.
8 centimeters, that's tiny. Like smaller than a deck of cards?
Yeah, it is small, but the detail is incredible. The lioness is standing upright, which is unusual for that time period, and the craftsmanship is just exquisite.
It must be amazing to see those intricate carvings up close. But beyond the artistry, is there a deeper meaning behind the lioness itself?
Oh, absolutely. In ancient Mesopotamia, the lioness was a symbol of power, fertility, and protection. It was often associated with Ishtar, their goddess of love and war.
Ishtar, goddess of love and war, that's pretty badass. So this tiny statue is packing some serious symbolic weight.
Exactly. It's a tiny embodiment of some pretty big concepts. No wonder it's so valuable.
Yeah, it's like a little window into their entire belief system.
Right. And speaking of windows, it makes me think about how we can connect ancient art to our own lives today.
Yeah, is this all just an academic exercise, or is there something more relevant for us modern folk?
That's a great question. And I think the key is to remember that for ancient cultures, art wasn't confined to museums or galleries. It was an integral part of their daily lives.
Right, their homes, their clothes, their rituals. It was everywhere. It wasn't something you just looked at, it was something you lived with.
Exactly. So instead of passively observing art, we can learn from that and try to actively engage with it.
How do you mean?
Well, think about how you incorporate art into your own life. How can we surround ourselves with things that inspire us, tell our stories, connect us to something bigger than ourselves?
So you're saying it doesn't have to be ancient art, it could be anything that speaks to us.
Absolutely. A painting by a local artist, a piece of handmade pottery, even a beautiful bouquet of flowers.
Yeah, it's about bringing art into your everyday experience.
Right. And it also encourages us to be creative ourselves. Maybe try painting, take a pottery class, or just start noticing the artistic potential in everyday objects.
You know what? I've always wanted to try pottery.
You should. It's a lot of fun, and the act of creating can be incredibly enriching.
It's like tapping into that ancient human impulse to create something beautiful and meaningful.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe those doodles in your notebook or that silly dance video you made will be the ancient artifacts of tomorrow.
Huh. Future generations analyzing our memes and trying to decipher the meaning behind our TikTok trends.
It's a funny thought, right?
Hmm.
But it does make you wonder what our art will say about us thousands of years from now. What will people make of our digital footprints and our obsession with selfies?
It's like we're creating this massive digital cave painting of our time, just waiting for future archaeologists to interpret.
It is. And it makes you think about the legacy we're leaving behind. What stories are we telling through our art? What will those stories say about who we were and what we valued?
Those are some big questions, but I think they highlight the power of art to connect us across time and spark these meaningful conversations.
Yeah, it's not just about aesthetics. It's about understanding ourselves and our place in the world.
Well said. I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Sounds good.
Okay, folks, we've reached the end of our exploration of ancient art. I hope you've gained a new appreciation for the skill, creativity, and cultural significance of these incredible works.
I hope it's inspired you to seek out art in your own life, whether it's ancient or modern, and consider the stories you're telling through your own creative expressions.
And to our listener, thank you for joining us on this journey. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep creating. Until next time. You know, it's really incredible to think about how art has this power to connect us across time.
Yeah, it really makes you feel like you're part of something much bigger,
Yeah.
like a continuum of human experience that goes back thousands of years.
And it makes you think about all the ways we express ourselves today.
Oh, totally. Like everything we do is a form of art in a way.
Yeah, the things we post online, the photos we take, even the clothes we wear, it's all about communication.
Exactly. We're all artists, whether we realize it or not.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of ancient art, what's the main thing you want our listeners to take away from this?
I think the most important thing is to just be curious about art, you know? Like, don't just look at it, but really engage with it.
So ask questions, explore different perspectives, really dive deep.
Exactly. And let yourself be moved by it.
Yeah.
Let that creative spirit inspire you.
I love that. And remember, folks, art isn't just something you find in museums or galleries.
It's everywhere. It's in the streets, in nature.
Even in the way we arrange our furniture.
Exactly. Just keep your eyes open and you'll start to see the world in a whole new way.
Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today. We've reached the end of our journey into the world of ancient art.
It's been a fascinating ride.
It really has. I hope you've enjoyed exploring its hidden depths and discovering its enduring relevance to our lives today.
And we hope it sparked a little creativity in you, too.
To our listener, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep creating.